Sam Mellinger, he covers Kansas City sports, covers the Kansas City Chiefs for the Kansas City Star, kansascity.com, and the great columnist joins us on the program. Good morning, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. These talks have been kind of quiet with Patrick Mahomes, which I think is good. But, well, first of all, are they going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the sort of the parameters here or the framework here from each side of what they hope to get? Let me start with the Kansas City Chiefs. What would be ideal for them to get with Patrick Mahomes?
Long-term employment of Patrick Mahomes. I think that is the goal from the team for sure. I think that these talks have been going on, and I think that there's mutual ground here. Patrick wants to be with the Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously want him here long term. He'll be the highest paid player in the league. I think that's a wrap. It's just a matter of structure and figuring out exactly how to do it.
But also, if you're Patrick Mahomes and his agent, what is your strategy of how long and how much, and then get that second? He'll get another contract too. That's going to be a big one before
For
he's
sure.
even 30.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, like Chris Cabot, who is leading the negotiations on Patrick's side, he's been ice quiet. The insight that I'm getting is from other people in the business, and it is tantalizing for them because this is a possibility to really change future negotiations. I mean, the thing that comes up when you talk to anybody in football, really agents especially, is nobody has ever had this kind of leverage. League MVP the first year, Super Bowl MVP the second year of playing. Obviously, set the first year, and he's 24 years old. He's changed a franchise, kind of turned them from sort of a perennial postseason heartbreaker to a possible next dynasty. And the Chiefs. So he's got them. He can ask for whatever he wants, and that's what people keep talking about. Like, is this the time that something gets tied to a percentage of the salary cap? That's something that some agents have wanted for a long time, and teams have always resisted. Is it just a full guarantee? I know Kirk Cousins did that a couple years ago, but this, Patrick's numbers would obviously dwarf that. So it's sort of, I think what people around the game are looking at is not just the bottom line money, which will be enormous, but it's also what kind of new precedents can be set that can help other players.
But if you tie it to the salary cap, and if I'm going to follow what you pointed out in your column, let's say the salary cap goes down 25%.
Yeah.
Mahomes' salary then will go down, but then it will go up exponentially with the long-term possibilities with the new TV deal and gambling involved in the NFL. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's risk on both sides if you do that, for sure.
What kind of money, though? Can you overpay for Patrick Mahomes?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like all the rules are different with him. When you look at his age and just what he's been able to do, there's no. I tend to think about things like this. Like, okay, if he turns out to not be as good as we think he is right now, if he just becomes a good quarterback, not a transcendent one, what is the reason? And I can't figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, is it his physical talent? Like, obviously no. Is it his mind? Obviously no. Is it his work ethic? You never know how money can change somebody, but there's nothing in his background or sort of his personality that makes you think he's a risk to, sort of start mailing it in, once he gets paid.
The only thing that would concern me, though, Sam, is we've seen this before where quarterbacks get their money. And, Seattle built a team that was on the verge of a dynasty or
Yeah.
a mini dynasty because of Russell Wilson, where he was drafted and how much he was making. We've seen this with, teams trying to draft a rookie quarterback, get him to play, and then build the team around him. Kansas City's going to have some big ticket items. And Chris Jones, who could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl, he might be a guy who, has to pay the price for Mahomes getting his money.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, they've got, these are smart points that you're making. They how these contracts work. Like, you can actually create some short-term contract space or some short-term payroll space with a long-term deal with Chris Jones, right? Like, he's on the hook for, what is it, 16 million, something like that, under the franchise tag. You can create some short-term cap space by giving him a long-term deal. But the Chiefs are in a really, it's a good problem. It's one of these good problems to have because they're paying good players. But there was a moment, I think a week or two before the draft, where the Chiefs had $177 of
I
cap space.
know.
Not 177 grand, $177. They could not go out to eat as in a big group with that. So, they've got some hard decisions. But again, I mean, these are the problems that you want, right? Like you want the problem to be like, how can we tie up, the best player in the game long term?
Sam Mellinger, Kansas City Star, joining us on the program. Take me back to the draft and when the Kansas City Chiefs were moving up. And then you had Alex Smith, I believe, coming off a Pro Bowl season, and all of a sudden you're drafting a quarterback there. What was the local media reaction in Kansas City?
It was bonkers, man. I mean, you have to remember that in Kansas City, it had just been a long line of somebody else's backup quarterback that was starting for the Chiefs. It was Trent Green, it was Steve DeBerg, it was Steve Bono, it was Joe Montana for two glorious seasons in the '90s. But they had not drafted a quarterback in the first round since the 1983 draft. But they came out of that with Todd Blackledge, while other people got Hall of Famers. So this had been a cry. I mean, it was like almost part of Kansas City's. It was almost embedded in Kansas City as a sports fan. Is like, why the hell won't the Chiefs draft a quarterback in the first round? And when they in right before that draft, all these smoke screens that teams throw out, but
Yeah.
there was some talk that they wanted a linebacker to stop the run, and short term, just for that next season, maybe that would have been the smarter move. Somebody to stop the run, because we certainly saw how that ended in the playoffs. But when they traded up, and it was not just a quarterback. A lot of people assume it might be Deshaun Watson there, right? And he was the national championship quarterback against Alabama in the 2 minutes, all that stuff. But when they took Patrick Mahomes, now you're taking a really big swing, right? Now you're really going for the highest ceiling you can get. I mean, it was just. I think there was a nervous energy, like, oh my God, it finally happened. I hope it's the right move. But it was also like, finally, at least they're taking their move.
And you know this, covering drafts. I don't believe anything until usually that day of or
Right.
right before, maybe the day before. And I had an NFL scout who said, your guy Mahomes is moving up. Now, he said my guy because I would come in every Monday and tell my guys, you got to watch this guy. I don't know if he can play in the NFL, but he's as fun as any quarterback I've ever seen. And my NFL scout says, your guy's moving up the draft board. I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, no, he's going top 15. I go, you got all these people say that he's like Favre, but he's going to be a little bit more of a project here. Like, what happened where it's still an inexact science when we look at these quarterbacks. And Mahomes is one of those classic cases of he was there. Everybody could have, seen this or maybe had him. And what was it about him that we missed out on?
I think that it was a lot of surface stuff, to be honest with you. I think that, if you go back in time to 2017, the air raid, that was
Yeah.
a knock. Nobody had ever come out of Texas Tech or that system and had a great career. There was some questions about his handling of a huddle, or his grasp of a playbook, that kind of thing. Because what you see on tape, what you see on film is outrageous. It is now in the NFL, and it certainly was at Texas Tech. But you sort of wonder, you're just used to guys like that put up these big numbers, just not being able to do it in the NFL for whatever reason. I think one thing that doesn't show up on tape with these, again, these outrageous highlights, is how smart he is, and how quickly he can grasp things, and how quickly he can absorb it, own it, and then move on. You know what I mean? Like, this is it is different with him for sure.
You surprised the Chiefs drafted a running back that high?
I was a little bit. Look, I thought that they should have gone defensive back with that first pick, and then gotten your running back later. I believe that you can get value a little bit later on at that position. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is something different. And when you watch him, during the season, snap by snap throughout a whole game, and then certainly, like, the highlight tapes now. I mean, you can see exactly what the Chiefs saw in him, and how he is an unbelievable fit for that system. If he can protect. If you're going to play running back, you got to pass protect. You got to
Yeah.
be able to protect the franchise. But assuming he can learn that part of it, it's just an absolutely ridiculous fit. They're going to be tough to stop.
Sam, I can't help but go back to that knee injury with Mahomes
Yeah.
and what we thought at the time and
Mhm.
what it could have meant. I mean, that was historical in what it did for the
Yeah.
franchise and a quarterback and other quarterbacks and legacy. Like it was pretty. That was a big moment there.
Yeah, it was horrific. I mean, right when that happened, I can't remember if it was McCole Hardman or Tyreek Hill, one of the receivers. It might have been DeMarcus Robinson. Anyway, taking their helmet off after they see what happened,
Yeah.
after they see what that knee looked like, taking their helmet off and slamming it into the ground. And when you see that kind of reaction, you think this is more than a sprained knee. And then when you hear dislocated kneecap, I mean, it's kind of makes you cringe. You know what I mean? But then it was weird. I remember he's starting to walk off the field, and he's got arms around, and he's being helped. And then, damned if by the time he gets to the 50-yard line, he's not walking on his own. And it was just like, like this guy is just different. And then you hear he's got like double jointed knee or something. That's how he was able. He missed 2 games
I
with a
know.
dislocated kneecap. It's absolutely insane.
It should be fun to see. Now, does Kansas City try to wrap him up before Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson or after?
Well, I think the better question is the Cowboys and the Texans want to get those deals done before.
That's what I thought.
I think like Patrick's going to get his money regardless. I don't think they really care what these other guys are going to get.
Good stuff, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That's Sam Mellinger, Kansas City Star.